We're following breaking news from the University of Louisville. A major shakeup in the athletic department. We're hearing Tom Jurich may be out of a job. A news conference is scheduled for 1 o'clock. And our Chris Williams has been on campus all morning. And Chris, tell us what you've been seeing and hearing.
Well, we're in front of Grawemeyer Hall, and we've been waiting this morning for Rick Pitino and Tom Jurich to arrive here. We were able to run into both gentlemen as they showed up. There's a room in the back of Grawemeyer Hall where interim director Dr. Postal, interim president Dr. Postal, was waiting to have meetings with both. Tom Jurich showed up first, and he talked to us a little bit about, I asked him questions of whether he thought he was being fired. He said he simply didn't know, that he would talk later. I asked him what he thought about the people who had been out today and overnight on social media trying to get the governor to save Jurich's job. He said he didn't know about those people. But when Coach Rick Pitino showed up, his driver double parked in front of Grawemeyer, and he ran up these stairs here behind us. We tried to catch up with him and ask him some of the questions that have been on your mind. Here's how that went down. Coach, are you being fired?
Anything you'd like to say?
Are you being fired today, Coach? What do you think of all the attention being paid to yet another scandal at the school involving your basketball team?
Coach, have you spoken to Tom Jurich?
Yeah, I can. It's a public building.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. It's a public building, Coach. I can come in here. It's a public building. There's a public meeting.
Do what you like.
Okay. Why would you say I couldn't come into a public university building? Did you know anything about what Adidas was alleged doing? Back here, Coach. This door right here, 106. Coach, did they fire you? Is it heartbreaking to see your potential end at U of L end this way after all you've done here?
One scenario I heard was that they were brought into the meetings, asked to resign, said no, put on suspension, administrative leave, and that their fate will be determined at the next board meeting, which is in October.
And I would imagine some of that is just because of how their contracts read as far as,
I think 10 days notice we heard on one of them.
Rick Pitino's contract, he had to be given a 10-day written notice, and then he has to have a chance to be heard. Now, that is in the legalities of his contract, but you would have to think that a lot of those have to take place.
Live news conference. That's John Kerman, the media spokesman from U of L.
Chairman of our Board of Trustees, David Grissom, and we'll take a few questions. So we're getting ready to start right now, and here's Dr. Postal.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming.
Well, there you have it, the live news conference. I think one of the most telling lines right away from the interim president, doing nothing would be a tacit approval of criminal behavior. And there, David Grissom, a former banker, as buttoned up as you can be, saying, I went home and told my wife, you can't make this up.
Right, exactly. And, you know, we had heard about the semantics. Are they fired? Are they not? Both on administrative leave, one paid, with Jurich unpaid for Rick Pitino. I guess the big question, it seemed like there was a little wiggle room with Jurich. I don't know. Am I interpreting that correctly or not?
I think publicly, I think there is a little wiggle room there because he was directly asked, could they still earn their jobs back at the University of Louisville? And he said that this is not a dismissal. So anything is open, anything is possible. However, I just think that's wording. I do not think that Rick Pitino will go on and be the head basketball coach at the University of Louisville.
And we've reported on, based on the allegations that came out yesterday, this player narrows down to one person, Brian Bowen, who made his announcement that he was committing to U of L on June 3rd, and the timing of all of that.
I think your question, Derek, was really interesting. You asked about, right now, Greg Postal is just the interim president of the University of Louisville, and there were a lot of students here looking for some leadership. You asked that question.
I talked to a couple of students who were here. They say we've been going through a lot here at U of L. With Jim Ramsey leaving and now an interim president, and they say they want to see leadership, and for them leadership means cleaning house, get rid of all the wrinkles, is how one student put it to me.
And Postal told you?
And he said they're just going to follow through with this process and keep moving forward, and he wants to display that leadership in this moment for them.
And Renee, I can't even imagine the reaction, so take it away.
Well, Rachel, I will tell you, there was certainly a hush over this restaurant when the press conference began, when it first started. Lots of people were glued to the TV. People like Keith Hale, who was watching our channel very intently to see what was happening. So tell me your first thought. You're a longtime Cards fan. When you heard about this happening and you heard they were going to be put on administrative leave, what was your initial reaction?
Well, actually, I'm a diehard Louisville fan, and just to see that Pitino is being suspended without pay, I just feel it ain't fair to him, and I just know it doesn't have nothing to do with it.
The music is flowing with an upbeat tune in the Blue House in Louisville's Parkland neighborhood. But the one thing that hasn't been flowing here for 2 years, hot water.
The kids, we've been using hand sanitizer for everything.
In a place that teaches kids 6 to 17 years old.
Treat hand sanitizer.
That's right, something so simple, something we all take for granted, no hot water.
People use the restroom, we had bunches of hand sanitizer around.
But the funds just weren't there for a new hot water tank. The available money, every penny, instead focused on the 20-year mission here. Violin lessons in one of Louisville's toughest neighborhoods.
This is just another avenue to try to have another way out, another path, more positive path. You can warm up on this.
Our story in March showed you the dire situation with the 116-year-old home. Severe mold and cracks in the walls from years of rainy day leaks. Spaces too small to handle the growing interest in orchestra veteran Keith Cook's program, which wasn't just teaching music, but saving lives, like Veen Thompson's 9 children who are graduates of the Blue House.
It kept them out of trouble, and it kept them focused, and it benefited them a whole lot.
Our story hit a nerve. The folks at GE saw that report and wondered, what could they do?
So I picked up the phone on a Monday and called GE. 2 days later, take a look. Here it is. The company has donated a new water heater.
And not just that, GE hired the plumbing company, Maupin Plumbing.
Tom and Jim, go ahead and take it away.
Total cost with installation, about $1,500, all paid by Appliance Park. Cook was thrilled.
We called GE.
Okay.
And look what they showed up. That right there is your old water heater.
All right.
What do you think?
Good riddance.
Suddenly,
Yes. Keith, right? Yes.
the Blue House
We can still keep that one.
has been embraced
Yeah, maybe one unit upstairs.
by volunteers.
Okay. I appreciate it. All right. Thank you.
Repairs, a roofer, a new driveway,
Here's $500.
and donations, a 10-page list of checks from our first story.
We got Shelbyville, Kentucky, Floyd's Knobs, Blankenbaker Road, Crestwood.
So you got out of your car and you looked up and you said, it really is blue.
It is blue, and it is a bright blue.
Susan Collins of the East End came down to the Blue House in person to hand deliver her check of $1,000.
I think we can never invest too much in our children and people, adults who care and love children and want to nurture and guide them.
And our one story in March raised $22,000 in checks from you. Despite all that amazing generosity, that roof is still the big problem. If Cook spends everything that's been donated on that roof, he'll have little left over to spend on music scholarships and buying violins for those who can't afford them. He does not take a salary. Right here, a special Facebook Live presentation from WHAS 11. We're going to be bringing you the opportunity to talk to the man who created the Blue House, the trailblazing music program in West Louisville. To the robberies of people's women's purses that were open inside the car, they were able to reach in. The suspect from earlier today able to reach in and snatch the purses right out of an open window at a gas station. There's the Louisville Metro Police Department's helicopter still following closely above it.
With all the winding roads too, Doug, these speed limits are typically around 35 to maybe 45 miles per hour. It looks like for the most part they're going quite a bit above that.
Wide open field here with no roadway to be seen, at least in this viewpoint. All right, here we go. They've rammed him. The possible suspect in the case here in Louisville. We're going to widen the shot out here just in case.
Wow.
But police surrounding him.
10 cars there.
A very quiet part of Sellersburg. Neighbors still in shock tonight after they say a suspect came through this front yard where you see these tire tracks, came up onto the driveway where those marks are, and then back behind the garage. Police chased the suspect into the field, an unmarked car ramming into that suspect to stop him. Police walked their Louisville purse-snatching suspect through a Sellersburg field.
I'm glad they got him. I mean, makes it a little bit safer for everybody else.
Police had put out a warning about this man and his red pickup truck earlier in the day. He's Robert Ellis II of Mormon Road in southwest Louisville. The same man caught on camera at a number of East Louisville gas stations, brazenly snatching purses out of front seats as women pumped their gas. After being stopped near Shively by Metro Police, he then led them on a 40-minute chase across the river, ending as Indiana officers rammed his truck in this field outside Hamburg.
Oh, they were really flying fast.
After dozens of officers surrounded him and took him to the ground, detectives then looked inside that truck. Sky 11 was right over when they discovered several stolen purses, lining them up on the hood of the truck. This woman says she was one of his victims at Thornton's on Fern Valley Road.
I noticed the sound of my car door being open, and I turned around and saw a man grabbing my purse.
That needs to be painted on.
Exactly.
That's what's in West Louisville.
And there is, when you talk about the campus, there's so much opportunity.
We gathered a group of journalists to dive deeper into the West End economy. The history and its future still linked together to this day.
It almost seems like business owners and money makers here don't mind leaving money on the table here. Like, I ain't worth the hassle. I mean, I could do it. It could work, but it ain't worth the hassle.
When the Walmart deal fell through at 18th and Broadway recently, the disappointment could be felt across the West End.
The idea that we were just this close, but now so far away, is very, very disappointing.
It signaled hope that a big retailer would move in, and a hope that more would follow.
West Louisville is primed for economic development and growth.
So what's holding it back?
One of the things that we found a number of years ago when we did a study about the economy of West Louisville is that it is a cash-based economy.
Meaning many people don't use credit cards or debit cards. Former Metro Council President David Tandy says it's one of the main reasons a big box retailer hasn't moved into the community.
When they're seeing mainly a cash economy, that most of the time that doesn't mesh with their matrix.
Many in the city looking to change that.
Retail follows rooftops, so the people have to be here for retail to follow.
Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher says the #1 path to more business is more people in the West End and more people in a mixed income community.
That's been one of the major stumbling blocks that's prevented us from overcoming some of the challenges that exist now.
The city is looking to expand Waterfront Park to West Louisville. There will be a major renovation of the Russell neighborhood, even planting more trees.
We've had decades and generations of disinvestment here, and some of which was perpetrated by federal government policies.
Mary Ellen Wiederwall with Louisville Forward is talking about what happened to the city in the 1930s. Under President Franklin Roosevelt, the Homeowners Loan Corporation was started. It was a plan to rate communities in a way to prevent foreclosures. But what researchers say ended up happening had a devastating effect on West Louisville.
It was an essential abandonment of certain neighborhoods, so neighborhoods that may have been accumulating wealth.
Josh Poe compiled years of research about what came to be known as redlining, a government plan that laid out what areas of town were the most desirable.
This is an old federal government map that showed the old rankings. Red was the lowest. You can see right here that much of West Louisville was in red, making it extremely difficult for residents to get home loans. This is the area of Portland and Russell today.
The neighborhoods in the east were essentially overvalued, so investment was really guided into that area.
Louisville city leaders say redlining was followed by urban renewal in the 1950s and 60s. The federal program designed to save cities by tearing out old blocks of buildings in hopes that new ones would be built. This KET video shows former Louisville Mayor Charles Farnsley talking about what happened in West Louisville under urban renewal.
A few of the urban renewal types, the establishment types that promoted it, their motive was, as they told me, to drive the Negro back from the central area. They felt that way downtown wouldn't become the Black Belt. It was a cruel thing, and well, later, as you all know, urban renewal was called Negro removal by the Negroes and by the people who were sympathetic with them.
Cruel, a word many used in describing this time.
I think by acknowledging that it happened, the community at the grassroots level can pursue a path of truth and reconciliation to bring some sort of justice to those areas.
Sometimes it's the places you haven't been that teach you the most. So we're driving now to go and get a lady who's never been to the West End to get her reaction. Here we are. All right, let's see what she has to say. I enlisted the help of radio personality Easy Bluegrass, who grew up in the West End, and I knew he would be a great tour guide. Why haven't you been over to the West End?
It's dangerous from what I see on TV.
A snapshot of a community, a neighborhood often captured in its darkness.
I'm sure there's great people in the West End. I know there are.
But the light does shine through. What do you think it's going to be like when we go over there today?
Eye-opening. And I'm sure it's beautiful. Just hadn't had the desire to go.
We asked longtime Kentucky resident Shirley Maxey to take a tour of the West End with us, a place she hasn't really visited.
I'm anxious to go see all that today.
She splits her time between East Louisville and Hart County these days, but on this day, she would experience the Russell, Chickasaw, and Shawnee neighborhoods.
See you in a few, West End.
First stop, 26th and Broadway, Lyles Mall.
There's a mall. I mean, I didn't know there was a mall here. Never heard of this mall. And this is very interesting.
Welcome to the legendary Better Days West.
It's Shirley Maxey's first time in popular record store Better Days West.
I'm coming back because they got old school music here that you can't find anywhere else. So yes, I will be back.
And now to a place that Maxey had only heard about, and not all good things. What did you think about Shawnee Park before you came here?
I thought it might be run down, you know, because I didn't know. I'd never been here. And that's sad to say because it's not run down at all. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. This is very educational. Thank you.
Shawnee Park, the anchor of the West End, and neighborhoods tucked away in its landscape. What do you think when you see this neighborhood?
That you're not in the West End.
Houses that could be in any development in Louisville, quietly calling West Louisville home.
This is beautiful. I'm simply amazed by what I've seen. That I never thought that I would see this.
A historic community seen through new eyes. All it took was a little time.
I have a totally different mindset about West End. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to see it through y'all's eyes.
Bardstown, Kentucky, the epitome of small-town America. From the town square, a corner drugstore, to the local barber shop. A real slice of Americana.
When you walk these sidewalks, it sure does seem like idyllic small-town America. Nothing bad could happen here, right? But there it is.
Signs of trouble. Crystal Rogers, the missing mother of 5. A community standing with the Ballards after her father Tommy was shot and killed. Across the street, a Blue Lives Matter sign. Below it, a picture of Officer Jason Ellis, murdered in 2013. Bardstown, the epicenter of several unsolved cases. It began with Officer Ellis's murder. A year later, Kathy and Samantha Netherlands, a mother and daughter, murdered inside their home outside Bardstown. Crystal Rogers missing since July of 2015. Her father shot and killed last November. This town voted most beautiful in America, rocked by something very ugly, almost sinister.
It's not typical to have this many cases, this many death investigations going in a 3 or 4 year time period in a small community. It just doesn't happen.
Rick Sanders took the job of Kentucky's top cop with the state police last year. His agency in charge of all of these cases except for Crystal Rogers. Commissioner Sanders came into the job asking questions.
And I've had meetings with the investigators on these cases, and as an old former homicide detective, asked them the questions that I'm sure you're going to ask me.
We start with Bardstown police officer Jason Ellis. This month marks 4 years since he was gunned down. With reward money topping $200,000, the case still unsolved.
What is that telling you?
It tells me that there are very few people that actually know what happened in these cases. And those that do know, either because of loyalty or fear, are not going to tell us what they know.
It appeared to be an ambush-style killing, maybe someone who knew Ellis's route home. Branches placed on the exit he used on the Bluegrass Parkway, killed when he got out to move them. Major Jeremy Thompson helps to oversee these cases.
Well, we can assume he was the target, and you said, whoa, no, you can't. Why can't we?
Well, if we go down that road where he was definitely the target, then what we've done is we've limited ourselves without fact to back that up.
Backing it up with evidence despite everything we think and everything we may have heard.
As a reporter, I have to ask the questions. We've heard everything from he stumbled upon something, he was a narcotics officer, he's going to turn in a bad cop. You've heard all of this.
Yes. We've literally fielded thousands upon thousands of tips.
To show us the volume of the Ellis files, some of the detectives working these unsolved cases bring them out. It takes 5 of them to carry in just the Ellis case. For the first time, you're seeing the 10 binders full of tips, evidence, countless hours of sweat and tears.
When I look at this, I think how many man hours, I'm overwhelmed by how much information is here in front of me.
Mm-hmm. It's been thoroughly investigated and continues to be today.
Vested and hopeful they will solve it. And not just the Ellis case, but also the Netherlands. Kathy, a special education teacher, and her daughter Samantha killed inside their home in April of 2014. Police thought they had their break with this picture, a black Chevy Impala.
Whoever was in that car was in that house during the time this crime was committed.
That car's still out there. So is the killer or killers. In the Crystal Rogers case, her boyfriend, Brooks Houck, considered the main suspect in her disappearance. Despite multiple searches, no signs of Crystal. That case being handled by the Nelson County Sheriff's Department. But KSP is in charge of her father's case. Tommy Ballard, shot and killed while hunting last November. An accident or murder? Tommy Ballard and his wife Sherry relentless in their search for answers about their daughter. Was he getting too close to the truth?
So when I brought up the question to you, Tommy Ballard, why can't we call this a homicide yet? Why can't we?
You know what? We're investigating that as if it were a homicide. We're investigating every case as if it could possibly be a homicide. But in this case, we don't have definitive evidence to tell us what happened.
Sherry Ballard has now lost her husband and her daughter, and still no answers. We shared some of her questions and frustration with Commissioner Sanders.
Is there any evidence that they can tell us that they have? Are they working on this day to day?
I don't know if you can answer her question about
sure
evidence.
I can answer her question. We want to give her confidence that we are devoting resources necessary to do due diligence to this case.
Commissioner Sanders personally visiting Sherry Ballard to reassure these cases are still being worked by him and this team of investigators who won't give up. In fact, they say they can't let go and never will.
I know you said sleepless nights, I can't let it go. I mean, do you all feel the same way, how vested that you are in these cases?
Sure.
Yeah.
There are boats built for fishing. Then there's this one, welded together to catch carp.
This is a 30-foot custom AAD commercial fishing boat.
The Ohio River. Secret spots.
An undisclosed location.
Where Colton Johnson and his partner Jake Hewlett love to fish.
For honey hole.
And the fishing has been good. There's one. Real good.
There's a few jumping now, ain't they?
Asian carp.
There went a few.
More specifically, silver carp.
Hit the boat.
We'll actually jump in the boat.
Whoa! One got him, did it?
In a fish frenzy.
Woo! I've never seen any fish jump like they do.
Stirred up.
Like you're right on top, ain't they?
As these guys hum along.
The vibration of that motor.
The flying fish are soaring in numbers and have boaters soar.
Heck, I've got hit one time. One got me right in the eye, going about 30 miles an hour right in the forehead. It about knocked me out of the boat, took the breath out of me.
The danger to people as well as to Kentucky's aquatic ecosystem has state and federal fisheries biologists fishing.
Coming up!
For an answer.
These things break bones.
Asian carp,
silver carp,
came to America in the 70s.
They could be raised in the same ponds as the catfish
as a natural way to control algae blooms.
So instead of using chemicals,
within 6 months from those Arkansas catfish farms, the carp escaped into streams.
They go through the pipes
and swam to the mighty Mississippi.
They really got out even before the first floods hit.
Before long, the Asian invasion advanced to the Ohio River, now also occupying Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley.
There is not going to be a magic pill that gets rid of these things.
So this is one-time Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Resources.
We can control these things.
Encourages overfishing.
We want as many fish out of here as those commercial fishermen can harvest.
Always flying around. They're not too hard to find.
Back out here on the Ohio River with Colton Johnson and his buddy Jake, as well as a couple other buddies on a couple other boats. And we're fishing at night. Why at night? Well, for one thing, it's cooler. The sun's not beating down, and that helps the fish from spoiling.
What's worse, the bugs or the humidity?
It takes a strong net.
Yeah.
And plenty of it.
400 yards.
To round up schools.
You're down to 100.
Of big fish.
All right, slow down. We're about done. We got to tie this towel plate on.
Nothing about it is easy. Because every haul is a heavy one.
Close the net before the fish got out.
Where there's one fish, it's no exaggeration to say there are tons to follow.
There's more carp out there than that river anybody ever imagined.
And this is just a 400-yard stretch of an Ohio river.
You want to get your boat out of the middle of this?
981 miles long.
There you go. Nice. There's your big black. That was a big one, too.
This isn't just a drop in the bucket. It's a droplet in an entire pool.
We're just scratching the surface, if we're doing that. We can come back here tomorrow and catch this many, if not more. Same spot.
Silver carp is gold for fishermen like Johnson at 17 cents per pound.
It just stays underwater and eats.
It's, well, maybe not worth their weight in gold, but still a nice net gain.
Can you believe that's hard on the back?
For this dirty job.
We're making a little money, helping some people out, getting some carp out of the water. We got real close to 8,000 pounds, if I'm guessing. We've caught less today than we have any other day, and we've fished 3 other days this week. It'll put us over 35,000 pounds this week.
Despite their bodies taking a pounding,
off to the market,
they still have to deliver.
Got over $1,000 worth of fish. I'm real happy.
On a promise to catch carp.
So where does all that carp wind up? Well, a lot of it is received right here in Wickliffe at Two Rivers Fisheries. And on average, 20,000 pounds are processed each day.
36 commercial fishermen contracted, delivering different kinds of carp.
Oh, this is a big one.
Two Rivers Fisheries is the first of its kind in Kentucky. The state's first worldwide exporter of Asian carp.
Now we remain the biggest Asian carp exporter in the country.
And therein lies the irony.
It's not very welcomed here.
An import is now a big export, sending them back to where they came from. Jeez,
so did you taste any of the carp when you were at that fishery there?
Yes, I did.
How was it?
Angie Yu made me taste it, and it wasn't bad at all. It wasn't fishy at all, and maybe there will be an appetite in America at some point.
Such a caring and giving person. She didn't have much. She didn't have much at all, but what she did have, if somebody asked her for it, she would give it.
A generous heart and a beautiful smile. This is how Veronica Jecker's parents want to remember her. The fun-loving daughter in that orange tank top, giggling with family, doing the electric slide in the backyard.
This is my favorite.
At 22 years old, Veronica was a young mother and head over heels about her daughter, Raylan. Veronica had a job at Ford, but she also had a secret, an addiction that began revealing itself to her parents about a year ago.
And I would have to call her 10, 15, 20 times to get her up in the mornings, to get her ready for it. I'm like, what is going on? Why are you not getting up? And of course, I always got excuse after excuse. And finally, she come clean and she said, Mom, I've got a problem.
Veronica coming clean about using pills, seeking treatment more than once. Her parents thought she had it under control.
Did you ever say, are you back using?
I would ask her and she'd say, no, I'm clean. The girl that she was living with said, no, she's clean. And I guess part of me wanted to wholeheartedly believe that she was.
Yeah, Veronica was very good at hiding it. She would pick and choose the time she would come around us.
2 outs this time. 2 outs. Veronica's addiction not completely evident to them while she was alive, but becoming crystal clear in her eventual death. Carrie and Jay getting that phone call every parent dreads. Their call came from the hospital.
They wouldn't tell me anything. I kept asking, is she okay? Is she alive? Is she breathing? They said, you just need to come here.
They thought Veronica was in rehab, but instead she was on life support. Her addiction to pills had turned to heroin, and she received a deadly batch.
They told us it was probably a combination of fentanyl, rat poison, and elephant tranquilizers.
Shocked by the discovery and shell-shocked by the grief of letting go. But in that goodbye, Veronica's generous heart had one final deed.
Veronica may not have been able to save herself, but she did save 3 other people because of what she did right here.
Veronica was an organ donor, and her final wishes would be honored. Her family told what was being donated at the hospital. The timing for them was divine intervention.
But the day they walked into the hospital and they told us that a kidney and a pancreas was staying here. Local, and other kidney was going to UK in Lexington, and liver was going to Tennessee. That's when we cried. We cried as hard there as we cried at her funeral or over top of her casket. But that was happy tears.
The daughter they lost to addiction and heartbreak, saving others.
So it kind of brings us back full circle. When you said the sweet Veronica, you know, as the giving, this was kind of her last gift.
Yes, it was. She was a huge UK fan.
And how fitting, she says, that one of those recipients was at UK's hospital. Veronica's love of the big blue evident in the flowers from her funeral. Veronica's heart wasn't able to be donated, but it lives on in another way for her daughter and her mother.
This bears really something special.
It is.
Tell me about it.
Anytime I want to hear Veronica or just think about her, the hospital, this is another thing that wonderful hospital gave us. It has her heartbeat in it. All you have to do is push the button, and that's her heartbeat.
Veronica's family, like so many, struggling with opioid addiction, not wanting their loved ones to be remembered for their demons, but for their beautiful smiles, and in Veronica's case, her final gifts.
And we've had such a strong reaction to people watching our newscast. A local mom sent us a message saying they found out their 22-year-old daughter was on heroin when she came home for Thanksgiving last November in obvious withdrawal, and she said, we're still at wit's end of what to do. We really need help.
And I'll tell you what, the phone calls they've been getting, I've been kind of listening to some of what they say. You can sense the pain, you can sense the struggle. Even had one person calling in saying that they were going to try and seek treatment because of this phone call. If we helped or saved one person tonight, this entire 2.5 hours, of course, has been more than worth it.
From WHAS 11, this is Thunder over Louisville.
Very dedicated to the community and furthering aviation.
Yeah, they said to me, we've even got a general flying with us. And they said, oh,
not
he's going to be on TV
yeah,
with
you. I know. Yeah, I get kicked out of the club today. I'm here in the set, but I'm having more fun.
Rob, did you kind of have to relearn, though? I mean, it'd be checked out and learn how to fly this different kind of plane? Because this is totally different than the jets you were flying.
Well, so that's the thing that we talk about is that people always ask, can you fly that? And I go, absolutely, as soon as you teach me how to start it. So, yes, pilots have to learn each individual aircraft. There are different emergency procedures on this. This Russian design uses air more than instead of hydraulics.
We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with more sights and sounds from the air show here at the waterfront.
They have become one of the most deployed Air National Guard units in the entire country.
They practice all the time. Any day of the week, you can be downtown Louisville and look up, and here's the C-130s going in and out over the city.
Yeah, that's right. And my hope is for this unit to have such notoriety. I mean, everybody in Louisville should know what a C-130 is, should know what it looks like, and when you see it overhead, know that those are your guardsmen that are out there doing their best work.
And most famously, as we brought up just a little while ago, and there's its speed at 366 miles per hour. It was Thursday, April 13th, when a C-130 did drop that bomb, the mother of all bombs, as they called it, on Afghanistan. So we're seeing exactly.
Yep, it's that type of airframe. Obviously, it wasn't our guys that did that,
right.
But yes,
no,
that's
it
right.
wasn't.
The airflow over that canopy to be able to pick a spot and land on it.
And with this breeze, it's amazing.
Yeah, so they're able to actually maneuver those things, and you see them losing altitude. So in a sense, they're flying that chute to the ground. Normally, when you think of a big parachute, big round parachute, you're not steering that very much. You can turn yourself into the wind, but these guys can actually land with precision.
Now, do they actually use these kinds of chutes that they can guide during combat now, or do they still use the big white one?
Special operators will use these type of chutes for their more precision jumps, but no, if you're going to do a big airborne drop, the C-17 full of paratroopers coming across a landing zone, they'll use still a round military parachute, as we will in our fighters as well, too, in the ejection seats. So you're coming down. Well, he's not going to be able to go around like you can in
the
an
Earth
airplane.
looks so big when you're up there, and then they have to find this little tiny spot, and I just don't know how they do it.
You got to go big to small.
What did we hear? We heard the precision yesterday. Rob, I think were in with us on our 5 o'clock news. They landed at 10 feet. 10 feet below the square.
They can land, under the right conditions. They can land, they could land right here on the studio without any difficulty.
It was almost just.
It looks like they're landing somewhere down near the ballpark.
We put a GoPro camera on the Golden Knights as they were doing that practice session. And guys, just to let you know, I was on my way to work, and so I got stuck in that traffic jam on the 3rd Street ramp. They had shut down the ramp, and all of us were there watching these guys, and the windows were down, and I heard people applauding all around us as they were coming in.
Okay, well, so maybe if we hold on this shot long enough, we'll see you. On the third.
With my camera out the sunroof.
Those two gentlemen there with the fireworks company on the right-hand side, Michael Richards, they're getting ready. They're watching the barges come into place, looking out the river. All smiles right now as we prepare, Renee and Doug, for what is going to be a fantastic event. Now, 51 minutes straight up.
Hey, Chris, I was going to say, don't touch that board behind you. You got awfully close to that little digital board there.
Yeah, I don't even want to do that number. I think. Yeah, see Mandy,
the propellers they've got lights around them, highlighting them.
I know he's got lights in the cowling that which gives it that alien vibe to it as it's going through the sky. But you don't often find performers that like to do aerobatics at night. It's neat that he's able to come out and do this for us again.
He's one of the few that do that. This plane originally built back in the 1940s. It can reach speeds of 250 miles an hour. It's lit up like that of getting us ready for the fireworks show.
Look, he turned his lights off and then on. I mean, and this is so clear. Just imagine what these fireworks are going to look like at 9:30.
It is going to be amazing. Speaking of the fireworks, we want to go back up to our command center.
I was born on July 4th. 1776. And the Declaration of Independence is my birth certificate.
Working diligently behind the scenes, but it's orchestra leader and composer Teddy Abrams who has been working behind the music.
You have to think about how this music is going to work with incredibly loud, very boomy fireworks that are supposed to be working together in collaboration.
Engineering is set and go. System locked. We're locked. Go.
green and go. We are ready for launch, Wayne.
Thanks, Mandy. Stand by for count. From Thunder Command, we are go for launch.
10, 9, 8, ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Are you being fired today, Coach? Are you concerned they're going to let you go today?
I came home last night and said once again to my wife, you can't make this up.
Effective immediately, Coach Pitino has been placed on an unpaid administrative leave. Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics, Tom Jurich, has been placed on a paid administrative leave.
I think it's sad, but I also think it's necessary from the standpoint that maybe the whole program needs to start from scratch again.
And there you have an historic shakeup today at U of L. Two of the best-known names removed from their jobs. Two interim leaders will soon become temporary athletic director and basketball coach of the Cardinals by the end of this week. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us at 6. I'm Doug Proffitt. Just under an hour ago, Rick Pitino's attorney is promising a fight in a brand new statement. Says in part that U of L, quote, did not give him, talking about the coach, prior notice of the disciplinary action or an opportunity to be heard as required by university policy and Coach Pitino's employment contract. Steve Pence goes on to say Coach Pitino has, in effect, been fired. The matter will now follow its legal course. Tom Jurich, though, releasing a much different statement as well, saying he's dedicated 20 years to the university and, quote, my intent has always been to run every athletic program at the university in an honest and compliant manner. It is heartbreaking to me that the alleged intentional and secret criminal acts can bring such harm to our school. Jurich goes on to say he loves the school and Louisville community, and he plans to help U of L overcome the challenges it faces after that critical Board of Trustees October 18th meeting. That's a meeting where he could be fired, but Jurich there not talking about any legal action in his statement there so far. Well, we do have team coverage beginning tonight of the big announcement by the interim U of L president, Greg Postal, beginning with our Derek Rose live from the campus explaining the decision and how it all happened today. Derek?
Well, Doug, you mentioned that statement from Rick Pitino. We cannot say that we're surprised by this statement. He has vowed before to fight, vowing again now to fight legally over the terms of his contract. Already trying to clean itself from the sex party scandal, the University of Louisville's reputation soiled once again by news of an FBI investigation into a pay-for-play scheme involving university sponsor Adidas, the family of 2017 recruit Brian Bowen, and two U of L men's basketball coaches.
I would say that I was more angry than embarrassed. Obviously, embarrassment is part of it as well.
Board of Trustees chairman and the U of L interim president told a packed room full of reporters and students on Wednesday the university wanted to distance itself from athletic director Tom Jurich and head coach Rick Pitino. But the school stopped short of firing either man. Jurich and Pitino's respective contracts are the legal hurdles.
This is a typical way that universities deal with a situation where there is an ongoing criminal investigation. The criminal investigation is not complete, and individuals at this institution have not been formally charged.
It is true neither Jurich nor Pitino are named or implicated in the FBI investigation, and their contracts give them some time between now and what is likely their last day with U of L. Pitino's contract with the U of L Athletic Association allows him a 10-day written notice and a chance to present evidence before he's fired with cause. Jurich's deal with the university allows a 30-day chance to, quote, cure any violation before he's fired with cause, or 90 days advance notice without cause. Many have called for both men's jobs, and some students told me a clean house would be an example of the leadership they want to see from the school's interim president. What do you say to those students?
Well, I think it should be obvious that that's what we're doing. I mean, we've taken an action sufficient to bring a whole room full of media people together to make a very clear statement that we're not going to tolerate what we have learned about. So my answer to them would be we are doing everything in an appropriate way and will continue to do so as we learn more about the situation.
And again, those terms of the suspensions: a paid administrative leave for athletic director Tom Jurich, no pay for Rick Pitino on his suspension. But we are likely to see, judging from his statement late this afternoon, that his next competition will not be on the hardwood. Rather, it will be in a court of law. Live on University of Louisville's campus, I'm Derek Rose, WHAS 11 News.
Very good. Thank you, Derek. Well, Rick Pitino's career at U of L has been full of highs and lows, as you know. He was hired in 2001, and he took over the struggling Cards basketball team at the time, turning them around to make it to the Final Four in 2005. The team would then make it back there in 2012 and then become the national champions 1 year later. But with those successes, he has also seen scandal. In 2009, the Karen Cypher scandal rocked Pitino and his family, Cypher blackmailing the coach after the two had sex in 2003 inside a local restaurant. And then in 2015, Katina Powell's book, Breaking Cardinal Rules, leads to that NCAA investigation into allegations that women were paid to have sex with recruits on visits to campus at Billy Minardi Hall. Pitino was suspended as part of that investigation, and he is currently appealing that decision. Athletic Director Tom Jurich, who hired Rick Pitino, has worked for U of L since October 21st, 1997. In addition to Pitino, Jurich made some big-name hires, including John L. Smith in 97, Bobby Petrino, not once but twice, in 03 and 2014. He also helped the school move to the Big East in 05 and then to the ACC in 2014. Among some of Jurich's biggest accomplishments are the millions of dollars in new capital improvements that he's overseeing. Those include the new soccer stadium, an expansion of both the softball and baseball stadiums, and that recent expansion again of Papa John's Cardinal Stadium, and of course moving the men's basketball team downtown to the KFC Yum Center in 2010. And we also learned today that Tom Jurich's daughter works for Adidas, the company at the center of the FBI investigation. Her LinkedIn profile lists her as an NCAA brand communications manager at Adidas, and she works that job from the University of Louisville, a role that her profile says she's been in since March of 2017. Both Jurich and Pitino headed to campus this morning, meeting with university leaders. Both meetings lasted just under 10 minutes. WHAS 11's Chris Williams was also there, and he asked the men the questions as they were walking inside to learn their fate. Chris?
Guys, both men arrived here early for separate meetings with interim U of L President Dr. Greg Postel. Both left those meetings without commenting. The exchanges here an indication of the mood this day would take on at this university that has weathered scandal after scandal in recent years.
I came home last night and said once again to my wife, you can't make this up. So it was terrible disappointment. I really felt like we were on the trajectory that was positive and could take the university to the next level. So like Dr. Postel, I'm disappointed. There's a little bit of anger. It's not a happy day for the university.
U of L Board of Trustees Chair J. David Grissom and interim U of L President Dr. Greg Postel laid out the administrative decisions regarding Coach Pitino and Tom Jurich. Both had been on a roller coaster ride over the past few months. It seemed to be headed in the right direction until news broke of the FBI investigation. Dr. Postel tried to push optimism on a day of uncertainty.
While this may be a dark day for the University of Louisville, better days are ahead.
Are you concerned they're going to let you go today?
I have no idea.
The day began with a meeting for Tom Jurich, who entered Grawemeyer Hall and left in less than 10 minutes. His short answers upon arrival, the only exchange we'd have with him. Coach Rick Pitino answered no questions. He only spoke with us when trying to order us out of the public building where Dr. Postel was waiting. We had to point out for him where that meeting was taking place. It's a public building. No, you can't. Yes, I can. It's a public building, Coach. I can come in here. It's a public building. There's a public meeting. Do what you like. Did you know anything about what Adidas was alleged doing? It's back here, Coach. Less than 10 minutes later, on his way out of that meeting, I asked the coach whether it was heartbreaking for him to potentially end his career here at U of L this way, considering all that he'd accomplished here. He didn't answer. Instead, he got into a car and drove away. Live at the University of Louisville, Chris Williams, WHAS 11 News.
Chris, thank you. Reaction to the news coming beyond campus from fans to the former players. While some are disappointed by the decision to place Pitino and Jurich on leave, others say it may be a good thing.
There is no more excuses to be made. We have hit rock stone bottom. So we're going to have to start to integrity first, treating student athletes correctly second, and then, and only then, do you start to worry about individuals. The university put the individuals in front of the school and the athletes. And that cannot ever happen again. It cannot happen again.
I guess we're tired of it a little bit. There's a pattern here, so I think it's time to start fresh.
Former player Kevin Ware posting this tweet just this afternoon, "Can't keep a good one down. Rick will be good regardless." And in an Instagram post, Kyle Couric wrote, "It's hard to accept what has happened to our program today. Coach P taught me so much about the game, myself, and life. He is still my coach and always will be. I will always have his back no matter what." Now, we contacted John Schneider, by the way, of Papa John's. A spokesperson tells us he stands by a statement that he made at a recent board meeting in April and, quote, "You've got to fix athletics first, and then the university will get in line." So the next move, who steps in as the interim coach and the athletic director? Two big jobs. Postal said today they'll have a decision in the next 48 hours by the time we end this week. And our sports director, Ken Spencer, is talking here about some of the top contenders who could fill these giant jobs.
Well, when you think about who needs to be the next coach at Louisville, they have to be on the job quick because official start of practice starts on October 1st. That's Sunday, and they don't pause the season to get a coach in place. They got to get going. Now, when it comes to some of the coaches that you may have heard about, whether that's on social media, just out and about, let's take a look at some of those guys. Obviously, a hot name right now has been Bellarmine's Scotty Davenport. I had a chance to speak to Scotty Davenport today. He said he is recruiting on behalf of Bellarmine up in Columbus, Ohio this afternoon. Now, Davenport spent time on both the staffs of Denny Crum, Rick Pitino. Scotty is born and bred from Louisville and the University of Louisville. Then you got to look at Kenny Payne, who was a member of the Cards' 1986 National Championship team. Payne is currently on John Calipari's staff at Kentucky. Payne is also one of, if not the highest paid assistant coaches in the country. And then the next one, Thad Matta, former Ohio State coach who was just let go after this past season for the Buckeyes. Matta had a lot of success at Ohio State, including several Final Fours leading the Buckeyes. And then we have Tom Crean, and a lot of national writers in the past several hours have really been promoting Tom Crean to Louisville. It'll be interesting to see what kind of happens there. Of course, Indiana parted ways with Tom Crean after this past season, because they said they wanted somebody who could lead them to national championships. Tom Crean has expressed interest in getting back in coaching at some point, but it would have to be for the right position.
You cover John Calipari a lot. What would he tell Kenny Payne if he got that call?
I think if he got the call and if it was the right circumstances and it was the right offer on the table, I think John Calipari would give Kenny Payne his blessing.
Interesting twist in that rivalry.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Kent. And our coverage of the latest U of L basketball scandal is continuing next at 6 with concerns surrounding the future of the program. What does it mean for the KFC Yum Center downtown? Our Tabney Dozier today has been asking that question to get some answers when we come right back. And at the end of this newscast, my Prophet Report commentary. The end of one of the most stunning days in U of L's history, and in reality, there have been many of them with scandals and investigations in just a few minutes. Our coverage tonight here at 6 on the University of Louisville men's basketball FBI investigation is continuing. Many are wondering, what do the shakeups mean for the future of the KFC Yum Center? How could it impact ticket sales? The school, as you know, is the arena's main tenant. WHAS 11's Tabney Dozier is joining us live right now downtown with reaction. She's been looking into that complicated story today. Tabney?
Well, Doug, here's where the debt stands as of today. Per the Arena Authority, it tells me it will take approximately $350 million in bonds to market this year, prioritized over the next 30 years. This arena falls in Metro Councilwoman Barbara Sexton Smith's district. She tells me regardless of these new investigations, it is up to all of us to keep the seats in the Yum Center full.
So am I concerned about what's going to happen with our men's basketball team? Of course I am.
It's safe to say District 4 Metro Councilwoman Barbara Sexton Smith is not alone. The Cards men's basketball team now involved in a federal investigation of alleged bribery and fraud involving a player, some coaches, and its sponsor, Adidas.
I believe these businesses will find a way to keep their doors open, and I know that the community in the region can come out and support those businesses, whether there's something going on at the KFC Yum Center or not. That is where the real opportunity is going to come.
It has been our goal for a long time to refund these municipal bonds and try to get them to market this year. And nothing that has happened yesterday or today has changed our goals.
Arena Authority Chairman Scott Cox says his team is concerned about the newest allegations. He adds that paying the bonds used to finance the Yums construction is a shared agreement with the city and U of L. The city agreed to pay more money every year while bonds are in existence, and U of L also agreed to pay more money to service the debt by ticket sales and other revenue.
I think we're going to be okay. I think there's an enormous appetite for college basketball in this community. I think the support for the University of Louisville athletic programs, all the programs, women's basketball, men's basketball, football, all of them are wide and deep.
Cox says it's too early to truly see what impact this investigation will have on the arena, but it's a concern and yet another black eye on one of the state's top universities. I asked for Mayor Greg Fisher's thoughts on the investigation affecting the Yum Center. He said it's too early to speculate, but he did tell me he believes in U of L and, quote, we all need to support its students, faculty, and staff who work hard every day. I have confidence that the Board of Trustees will take the necessary actions to lead the city's flagship university to a bright future. Tomorrow, Scott Cox tells me the meeting in Frankfurt to oversee the bond issues for the arena will continue as planned. Reporting live downtown at the KMC Yum Center, I'm Tabby Dozier, WHAS 11 News.
Very good. Thank you, Tabney. At 11, we're going to be looking at the legal challenges over today's move. They're already setting up. Also, it's the talk of the town. More reaction. We'll continue to follow it on 11 at 11. And you can also keep us up to date with the latest updates online at WHAS11.com and through our mobile app. It's been quite a busy day. Haven't had a chance really to pay attention to the weather, but believe it or not, folks, we've got a cold front going to go through the area tonight.
Right.
What are you talking about in the
Much
50s?
calmer conditions in the weather department, but notice the cooler conditions just out to the west. So we're at 86, hit 92 degrees earlier today, tied a record high, but that cool air starting to march in, get closer. Chicago 70, 71 in St. Louis, and some upper 60s here in Kansas City. And we'll see those temperatures drop down to the 50s tonight, maybe even seeing some 40s by early on Friday. Not only cooler, but some autumn-like dry air on the way. Still a bit humid out there now. Dew point numbers that measure water content in the air still in the 60s, but notice that very dry air just off to the northwest. So all this is going to mean a lot more comfortable weather for this weekend and for the rest of our work week as well. We've had just a couple of very isolated showers. We mentioned all week that this front would be moisture starved, so most of the area is dry. We have one little stray shower here approaching the J-Town area and near Fern Creek, basically between I-64 and Bardstown Road, and then between Fairdale, Valley Station, one tiny shower there over Jefferson Memorial Forest, and just west of Munfordville, another little downpour. That is about it, though. As we switch into Futurecast, look at these temperatures here after sunset and through the overnight, just dropping. 50s first thing tomorrow morning. May want that light sweatshirt, light jacket. Into the afternoon, those temps in the 70s with a lot of sunshine. That autumn-like air will continue for, again, the rest of the work week and into the weekend. Friday morning, a little bit chilly here with upper 40s, lower 50s, and it looks like it's going to be fantastic for our HS Game Time Friday night football here with those temperatures in the 70s, and again, a lot more sunshine on the way. A mix of clouds and sunshine now as we look over the bridges and up the Ohio River with our view from Review Restaurant Lounge on top of the Galt House with our Morgan & Morgan HD camera network. Right at 86 degrees at the airports. Again, still just a touch muggy out there, but very soon we'll have that more comfortable weather on the way thanks to that wind direction shift, that air now coming in from the northwest. Still all in the 80s, though, right now. There's that record high of 92 today, tied the old record of 92 set back in 1998, and about 15 degrees above normal for today. Air quality monitoring stations at a moderate level did, just for a brief time, get up into that unhealthy zone. Cleaner air on the way, though, behind that front. We do have moderate levels of that pollen here, the ragweed season, and 59 degrees, mostly clear for tonight. And for tomorrow, enjoy that high of 76 degrees. This is phenomenal weather to get outside. Take a look at all the sunshine. No rain chances here. 70s through the weekend for highs, lows in the 50s. A little bit warmer as we start October and head into next week as some 80s return. Keep it here. Sports is up next.
Certainly the fallout has already began surrounding the Louisville basketball team. Today, the Cards lost their entire 2018 recruiting class. The first one to go was Anthony Simmons, who was the 12th overall ranked player in the class, according to Scout.com, and as a combo guard was quickly rising up boards. The second was Courtney Ramey, who was ranked as the 37th overall player in the 2018 class and was a point guard. Now, whoever the interim coach will be will have to hit the ground running both on the court with his current team and the recruiting trail. Meanwhile, in Lexington, it was also a crazy scene surrounding the Kentucky basketball program. The Big Blue Madness campout got underway this morning, and as always, it was a mad dash to find the perfect spot. The annual event, Big Blue Madness, which has become more of a show than an open practice, takes place Friday, October 13th. Tickets, which are free, will be handed out this Friday. And make sure you log on to WHAS11.com to vote for our HS Game Time Game of the Week for October 6th. Some great games on the list, including an intense rivalry, DeSales at Christian Academy. To vote, log on to WHAS11.com. And remember, voting ends Friday at 6 p.m. Tonight, Louisville City FC is on the road where they'll face Toronto FC 2. These two teams played just once before this season, back on April 29th at Louisville Slugger Field, and that game ended with a scoreless draw. The match begins at 7:30. We're going to have highlights of that game at 11 o'clock. And, Doug, it's kind of hard to imagine when we woke up yesterday morning that, nearly a little bit more than 24 hours later, the Louisville athletics program would currently sit without an athletics director and without a head men's basketball coach.
You're right, Kent, and picking up on that, we've come to an end of probably the most stunning, tumultuous time in U of L's history. The ouster of the school's best-known faces, better known than the school president, Rick Pitino and Tom Jurich. In my opinion, it's way overdue, stretching back to the troubled leadership of Jim Ramsey, who set the tone. Embezzlement by top professors, theft from the ticket office, the chemistry department, 2 sex scandals, one for the coach, one for the basketball team. Along the way, Ramsey hushed things. Jurich gave second chances. But as we learned this week, the real sewer that runs under U of L is not managed by MSD, but allegedly by Adidas. The influence of these companies is bigger than the Cardinals for sure, but U of L got snared in the FBI trap. Many of you, U of L's veteran educators, screamed hey and called for sweeping changes years ago. You were nearly ridden out of town. This day is rough, no question, but this day is also for you. You have been heard. By the way, you can let me know what you think. I always appreciate your opinion on Twitter at WHAS11Doug, or send me an email directly, dprofit, 2Fs2Ts at WHAS11.com. Tonight at 11, more coverage on what's next for the U of L basketball program, more reaction. Thanks for joining us at 6. See you at 11.